Hey everyone, Internet TCS book reader here. Today I want to talk about Neighborhood Story by Yazawa. I've talked about some seinen manga on the channel, Berserk, Manga, Parasite, Op. They're manga that is geared more toward more mature male demographic in comparison to shonen that are for young boys. And just like shonen and seinen, there is the shoujo manga that are geared more toward mature female demographic, josei. Ayasawa and her masterpiece Nana is famous for being an ode to fashion like many of her manga. The characters actually have different clothing every day or even different clothes on a single day instead of just the usual just one clothing for everyone every day, and they're amazing. A lot of it is very highly inspired by Vivienne Westwood and punk aesthetic, but it's not just for aesthetic. The clothing choices themselves are said to be part of the storytelling, and I hope I can get to read about them one day. But for today, we're not talking about Nana, we're talking about her earlier work that raised her to popularity status. We're talking about Gokinjo Monogatari or Neighborhood Story. To kinda see how she developed her style of writing, I'm giving you a heads up that I don't think this is anywhere near a masterpiece, but there are a few interesting experiments in her storytelling here that I want to go through along with its many flaws. Our main character Makiko Koda, or Maki in short, had a friend who was popular since they're just kids because his name, Sutomu, at that time they're growing up, is the name of a popular song named Sutamu from the Yamaguchi family. And when they grew up, things didn't change because she looked just like the vocalist from a popular band called Ken Nakagawa from the author's previous work, Not an Angel. From this setup, I think it's quite obvious that Sutomo and Maki is about to be a thing. They grew up as neighbors with the door of their house just across each other. Then after school, when Maki sees a senior at school kiss him on the cheek in front of their house, she reacted strongly and he reacted strongly to her reacting strongly. It's a bit on the nose for character introduction because these are people we know nothing about yet, but it did the job at introducing how much of a melodrama the story can be. So put your expectation at around that level. It has some annoying cliche. Sutomu, for example, is a dude that is obviously in love with his childhood friend but is still going around wanting to test things out with others for fear of missing out. Yes, it is the FOMO cliche nonsense. Which of course then juxtaposed with how he obviously cared about Maki since he's the first one who ran around their neighborhood when Maki was missing because she wanted to stay with a stray cat in the park for a while. Just so we know that he actually does care about her. Maki's mother is a shoujo manga artist, while Maki studied at fashion school along with Sutomu, and both Maki mothers and her I think is a self-insert for the author. Ai Yazawa herself once went to fashion school, but she dropped out and decided to draw manga instead. There's a reason why all of her characters can look anorexic since that's just the style of drawing for fashion silhouette. And Maki attempting to finish fashion school to open a fashion brand is the opposite of what Ayazawa does at that time, which is to pursue a career through the art of manga instead of fashion. If you haven't realized yet after about 2 chapters in, unlike her later series like Paradise Kiss and Nana, Neighborhood Story is not josei, it's shoujo. Some of the drama can be a bit too youthful, especially for my old ass. I can't help but cringe while reading some of them. It's like reliving being in puberty once again through the story, which is awful. But the characters are frustrating in a realistic way at least. These are teenagers after all, so they understandably behave in a teenager kind of way for the most part. The other thing is just like shonen had their own cliche that can feel like a checklist even in new shonen like Jujutsu Kaisen. Shoujo also had their own cliche that you'll eventually have to get used to for better or worse. Another cliche in this story is the main female lead having an arguably hotter than the main lead friend, and she usually either become the rival or the person who help her get through the emotion that the main lead is experiencing for the first time. And in the case of this manga, at first this character is the love rival. Sutomu will eventually date another girl named Mariko who confessed to him at that time to distract herself from loneliness. Because she's not sure what to do with his feeling for Mariko, Sutomu decided to date her. In response to this, Sutomu's friend made a big move trying to date Maki, which he did not even do for Sutomu's sake. He did this mostly because he's in love with Mariko, the girl that Sutomu is currently dating. So instead of talking about it with his friend, he decided to punish him by trying to date his childhood friend. Apparently he's just that much of a bad friend. This is because a lot of the cast of the characters are supposed to be not capable of understanding their own emotion yet. If it's not done well, it can easily turn into the dense protagonist cliche, because all of these kids are still finding out how to define what it means to feel what they feel, and sometimes their emotion can be very heightened because they are inexperienced and because puberty just sucks. Every hurt feels like the end of the world at that time. But thankfully for us, the reader, the high school soap opera drama level of bad communication skill did not last that long. After just a chapter or two, Sutomu eventually breaks up with Mariko and the story can go back to focus on the fashion a little bit. This is the most interesting aspect of the story in my opinion. Maki and her two other girlfriends in the school represent different kind of fashion style. Mayo Ota wears Lolita fashion. It's a style heavily inspired by Victorian era Gothic and dark academia fashion, where they dress up in the way that dolls dress up before Barbie was a thing, and she has an approach to life that is more innocent and kind of naive, which is why the Lolita gear she's wearing. Rika Kanzaki, who is the best character in the manga, wears punks. Both her and her boyfriend run away from home. She's more rebellious in attitude and very protective of Maki and Mai, which is shown by the punk where she rocks. Then the main character, Maki herself, wears different type of fashion from retro future to chic. She's a bit more experimental with her clothing because her dream is to open a new clothing store, which is her main purpose in the story besides the romance subplot. When the three guys made a new club in school, Akindo, the We Sell and Buy Everything club, they decided to join. They also recruited Mariko and her little brother. All 8 of them will eventually form the club school Akindo, where they basically try to open pop-up stores selling things. Mariko made her space available for the club to hang out. Mariko's little brother is selling his handmade colored clay. Mai is trying to sell her handmade plushie, and Maki for the first time ever is trying to sell the clothing that she made. It has been her dream since forever to be able to make her own clothing brand store, and this club where they can open a pop-up store is the first step for her to realize her dream. There's another jealous scene between Maki and Sutomu where her insecurities get the best of her, but the author fortunately didn't try to milk too much of the will they want they from our main lead, and they started dating, which I appreciate because romance manga had a habit of dragging this aspect of the story. Maki's mom manga also had been announced in the story that is getting animated at the same time as the manga itself was announcing that it's going to get an animation. It makes me wonder how excited the fans at the time reading this very meta announcement in the manga. I think it's cute that the author did that. At the same time as Maki and Sutomu is riding the honeymoon phase of the start of their relationship, their friend Yusuke and Mariko also started to develop their own feelings with each other in the most insecure teenager kind of way. So the atmosphere of the club is getting worse the closer it got to them opening their store in the flea market because of Yusuke and Mariko, but they managed to open the store at. And at first in the store, Maki is not able to sell the clothing she sewed because she sewed them out for her size, which is very small. Someone did eventually came before they closed the store and bought one piece of clothing that she made. It was a great learning experience for the party, especially for Maki. Unfortunately, starting from here, there are a lot of aspects of the story that drags the quality of the story down. The triangle love between Yusuke, Mariko, and the new girls feels very forced because the author need to invent a new character just to make the scene happen. There's also this weird tangent out of nowhere about Maki trying to search for his father who got divorced from her mother that feels very tacked on because it just magically become a problem one day. Some development of the romance also I think is too much 90s romance here, where the character just suddenly decided to make the worst decision possible and it always came out of nowhere. It's like someone walking normally on the street and then suddenly started jumping like a frog. It makes no sense at all. Then there's also a special flashback chapter from Makiko's class rep perspective in middle school, which is actually quite good despite being only a short chapter, but it feels out of place since it cuts off the ongoing story for no reason at all, an ongoing story that is currently being rushed because the author wanted to end the story. Which is a shame because I think if it's not because of it being rushed around the end, some of the plot point like Maki going to London away from Sutomu for the first time ever in her life to achieve her dream is an interesting plot point. It's a very flawed story with more low points than high, but there's also a certain charm to the story because it got some unique style to it and a lot of potential to be something more. I don't know how people are aware, but manga, anime, game, etc., all those Japanese media art and Western art highly inspire each other. Despite what the gatekeepers and the weird people that made the media they enjoy into their personality might say, they do influence each other. Yojimbo by Kurosawa, for example, inspired Clint Eastwood A Fistful of Dollars. Then George Stephenson inspired Kurosawa Sanjuro. Art built each other up and we can see this chain of inspiration in the different variety of clothing that the characters choose to represent themselves. Retro-futuristic, chic, punk, western suit, reggae, some of this fashion style you can still see on Japanese artists like Bradio with slick suit, clean afro, and some of the happiest funk music. As I said previously, it's a charming but flawed story. A lot of the story and the character is not set up properly despite some of them having quite some interesting concept. I think it's why it is a title that is mostly forgotten in our current generation. But if you're a fan of yazawa and you have the time, why not give them a look? It's really short after all with only 7 volumes. I give this a 2.25. What do you think? Let me know if I missed anything, so leave your thoughts in the comment below and subscribe to the channel. That's about it. See ya.